Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaurata.
And now chapter 18, The Conversations with Prakashananda.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaurata.
According to the principles of the Mayavadi sannyasis, singing, dancing, and playing musical instruments are strictly prohibited, for they are considered to be sinful activities. The Mayavadi sannyasi is simply supposed to engage in the study of Vedanta. Therefore, when the Mayavadi sannyasis in Benares saw that Lord Chaitanya was indulging in singing, dancing, playing musical instruments, and always chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, they concluded that he was not educated, and that, out of sentiment, he was misleading his followers. Shankaracharya's injunction was that a sannyasi should always be engaged in the study of Vedanta, and that he should be satisfied by simply having one cloth and nothing more. Because Lord Chaitanya neither studied Vedanta formally nor ceased from singing and dancing, he was criticized by all the sannyasis at Benares, as well as by their householder followers. When Lord Chaitanya received news of this criticism from his students and disciples, he simply smiled and started for Mathura and Vrindavan. When he returned again to Benares on his way from Mathura to Jagannath Puri, he stayed at the house of Chandrasekhara, who was considered a Shudra because he was a clerk. In spite of this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made his residence at his home. Lord Chaitanya made no distinctions between Brahmins and Shudras. He accepted anyone who was devoted. Customarily, a sannyasi is supposed to take shelter and eat in the home of a Brahmin. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the independent Supreme Personality of Godhead, used his own discretion and decided to stay at Chandrasekhara's house. In those days, by misusing their Brahminical heritage, the Brahmins passed a law to the effect that anyone not born in a Brahmin family was to be considered a Shudra. Thus, even the Kshatriyas and Vaidyas were also considered Shudras. Because the Vaidyas were supposed to be descendants of Brahmin fathers and Shudra wives, they were sometimes called Shudras. Thus, Chandrasekhara Acharya, although born in a Vaidya family, was called a Shudra in Benares. As long as Lord Chaitanya stayed in Benares, he remained at Chandrasekhara's home, and he took his food at the home of Tapan Mishra. When Sanatan Goswami met Lord Chaitanya at Benares, he learned the process and principles of devotional service during 2 months of continuous teaching. Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Sanatan Goswami have been described in the first part of this book. After receiving these teachings, Sanatan Goswami was authorized to propagate the principles of devotional service and Srimad Bhagavatam. It was during this time that both Tapana Mishra and Chandrasekhara Acharya were feeling very sorry about the strong criticism against Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they came together and prayed for the Lord to meet the Mayavadi sannyasis. We have been mortified by hearing unfavorable criticisms from the Mayavadi sannyasis against you, they informed Lord Chaitanya. Indeed, it has become intolerable for us. They requested the Lord to do something so that these criticisms might be stopped. While they were discussing this subject, a Brahmin came to Lord Chaitanya and invited him to his home. All the sannyasis had been invited but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and now the Brahmin came to invite him. Knowing that the Lord did not associate with Mayavadi sannyasis, the Brahmin fell down at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's feet and implored him, "Although I know that you do not accept invitations, I still implore you to come and take prasad at my home with the other sannyasis. If you accept this invitation, I will consider it a special favor." The Lord took this opportunity and accepted the Brahmin's invitation in order to meet the Mayavadi sannyasis. Actually, this was an arrangement made by the Lord himself. Although the Brahmin who invited him knew that the Lord did not accept any invitations, he was still very eager to invite him. The next day, Lord Chaitanya went to the house of the Brahmin and saw that all the Mayavadi sannyasis were sitting there. He offered his respects to all the sannyasis as was customary, and then went to wash his feet. After washing, he sat down beside the foot basin, a little distance from the other sannyasis. While he was sitting there, the sannyasis saw a glaring effulgence emanating from his body. Being attracted by this glaring effulgence, all the Mayavadi sannyasis stood up and showed him their respects. Amongst them was one sannyasi named Prakashananda Sarasvati. He was the chief among the impersonalist sannyasis, and he addressed Lord Chaitanya with great humility, asking him to come and sit amongst them. "My dear sir, why are you sitting in that filthy place?" he asked. "Please come and sit with us." "Oh, I belong to an inferior sect of sannyasis," Lord Chaitanya replied. "Therefore I think that I should not sit with you. Let me remain down here." Prakashananda was surprised to hear such a thing from such a learned man, and he actually took the Lord's hand and requested him to please come and sit with him. When Lord Chaitanya was finally seated amongst them, Prakashananda Sarasvati said, "I think your name is Sri Krishna Chaitanya, and I understand that you belong to our Mayavadi sect because you have taken sannyas from Keshava Bharati, who belongs to the Shankaracharya Sampradaya." According to the Shankara sect, there are 10 different names for sannyasis. Out of them, 3 names, Tirtha, Ashram, and Sarasvati, are given to the sannyasis considered to be the most enlightened and cultured. Since Lord Chaitanya was a Vaishnav, he was naturally humble and meek, and he wanted to give the better sitting place to Prakashananda, who belonged to the Sarasvati Sampradaya. According to Shankara's principles, a brahmachari of the Bharatic school is called Chaitanya. However, although Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, he kept his brahmachari name and did not take up the title of Bharati. "Well, sir," Prakashananda Sarasvati continued, "you belong to our Shankara sect, and you are living in Benares. So why don't you mix with us? What is the reason? Another thing, you are a sannyasi and are supposed to engage simply in the study of Vedanta, but we see that instead you are always engaged in chanting and dancing and playing music. What is the reason? These are the activities of emotional and sentimental people, but you are a qualified sannyasi. Why not engage in the study of Vedanta? By your effulgence, it appears to us that you are just like the Supreme Narayan, the personality of Godhead, but by your behavior, you appear to be otherwise. So we are inquisitive to know why you act in this way." "My dear sir, my spiritual master considered me a great fool," Lord Chaitanya replied. "Therefore, he has more or less punished me by saying that because I am such a fool, I have no capacity to study Vedanta. So in turn, he gave me the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. My spiritual master told me Just go on chanting this Hare Krishna mantra. It will make you all perfect. Actually, Lord Chaitanya was neither foolish nor ignorant of the principles of Vedanta. His purpose was to demonstrate to modern society that fools who have no history of penance and austerity should not try to study Vedanta just for some recreational purpose. In his Shikshashtika, Lord Chaitanya said that one should be in a humble state of mind, should think himself lower than the grass on the street, should be more tolerant than a tree, and should be devoid of all sense of prestige and ready to offer all kinds of respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the Vedanta philosophy or the holy name of God constantly. The Lord also wanted to teach that a serious student of transcendental science should follow the words of his spiritual master. According to the calculations of the spiritual master, Lord Chaitanya appeared to be a fool. Therefore, he said that he should not indulge in the study of Vedanta, but should continue chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Lord Chaitanya strictly obeyed this order. In other words, Lord Chaitanya impressed on the Mayavadis that the words of a bona fide spiritual master must be strictly followed. By following them, one becomes perfect in all respects. Vedanta indicates that the last word of Vedic knowledge is the understanding of Krishna. Vedaish cha sarver aham eva vedyo vedanta krid veda vid eva chaham, which means, quote, by all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas, unquote. From the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verse 15. When one actually comes to understand the Vedanta, he comes to know Krishna and his relationship with Krishna. One who understands Krishna understands everything. The knower of Krishna is always engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna. This is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti madva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita, which means, quote, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this perfectly engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts, unquote. From the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 8. A living entity is eternally related with Krishna in the relationship of master and servant. Once that service is wanting, or in other words, when one is not situated in Krishna consciousness, it is to be understood that study of Vedanta is insufficient. When one does not understand Krishna or does not engage in his transcendental loving service, it is to be understood that he is adverse to the study of Vedanta and to the understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The path of Vedanta study shown by Lord Chaitanya should be followed by all. A person who is puffed up by so-called education and who has no humility does not seek the protection of a bona fide spiritual master. He thinks that he does not require a spiritual master and that he can achieve the highest perfection by his own efforts. Such persons are not eligible for the study of Vedanta Sutra. Those who are under the spell of material energy do not follow the instructions of the disciplic succession, but try to manufacture something of their own, and thereby step outside the sphere of Vedanta study. A bona fide spiritual master must always condemn such independent mental speculators. If the bona fide spiritual master directly points out the foolishness of a disciple, it should not be taken otherwise. A person who is completely ignorant of the science of God cannot be considered learned. More or less, everyone who is not in Krishna consciousness is subject to foolishness. Sometimes we display our foolishness by accepting someone who is barely educated as a spiritual master. It is our duty to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose lotus feet are worshipped by all the Vedas. One who does not understand him and is proud of a false understanding of Vedanta is actually a fool. Mundane attempts at academic knowledge are simply another type of foolishness. As long as one cannot understand the cosmic manifestation as a representation of the three modes of material nature, he must be considered to be in the darkness of inebriety and caught in the duality of this material world. A person who is in perfect knowledge of Vedanta becomes a servitor of the Supreme Lord, who is the maintainer and sustainer of the whole cosmic manifestation. As long as one is not transcendental to the service of the limited, he cannot have knowledge of Vedanta. As long as one is within the limited jurisdiction of fruitive activities or is involved in mental speculation, he may perhaps be eligible to study or teach the theoretical knowledge of Vedanta Sutra, but he cannot understand the supreme, eternal, transcendental, completely liberated vibration of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One who has achieved perfection in chanting the transcendental Hare Krishna vibration does not have to separately learn the philosophy of Vedanta Sutra. According to the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the bona fide spiritual master, those who do not understand the transcendental vibration as being non-different from the Supreme, and who try to become Mayavadi philosophers or experts in Vedanta Sutra, are all fools. Studying Vedanta Sutra by one's own efforts, the ascending process of knowledge, is another sign of foolishness. He who has attained a taste for chanting the transcendental vibration, however, actually attains the conclusion of Vedanta. In this connection, there are two verses in Srimad Bhagavatam which are very instructive. The purport of the first is that even if a low-caste person is engaged in chanting the transcendental vibration, it is to be understood that he has performed all types of renunciation, austerities, and sacrifice, and has studied all the Brahma Sutras. Thus one can be able to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The purport of the second verse is that one who chants the two syllables Hari must be considered to have studied all the Vedas, the Rig Veda, Atharva Veda, Yajur Veda, and Sama Veda. On the other hand, there are many so-called devotees who think Vedanta is not meant for devotees. Such people are ignorant of the fact that Vedanta is the only platform of pure devotees. All the great acharyas of the four Vaishnava Sampradayas have made commentaries on the Vedanta Sutra, but the so-called devotees known as Prakrita Sahajya carefully avoid the study of Vedanta Sutra. The Prakrita Sahajya mistakenly take the pure devotees and Vaishnavacharyas to be mental speculators or fruitive actors. Consequently, they themselves become Mayavadis and leave the service of the Supreme Lord. Understanding the Vedanta Sutra by academic knowledge never enables one to understand the value of the transcendental vibration. People who are entangled in academic knowledge are conditioned souls who are confused about the facts of I, mine, and my understanding. Consequently, they are unable to detach their minds from the external energy. When a person actually attains transcendental knowledge, he becomes free from this duality and engages in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord. The Lord's service is the only means by which one can become detached from material activities. A person properly initiated by a bona fide spiritual master and engaged in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, gradually becomes freed from the conception of I and mine, and becomes attached to the Lord's transcendental loving service in one of the 5 transcendental relationships. Such transcendental service is not a subject matter for gross and subtle bodies. Only when one can understand that there is no difference between the Supreme and His name can one be situated in Krishna consciousness. At such a time, one no longer needs to make grammatical adjustments. Rather, one becomes more interested in petitioning the Lord. Hare Krishna, O my Lord, O energy of the Lord, please engage me in your service. Lord Chaitanya explained all this to Prakashananda Saraswati and told him that he had heard all this from his spiritual master. He further informed Prakashananda Saraswati that his spiritual master had taught him that Srimad Bhagavatam is the actual commentary on Vedanta Sutra, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam by Vyasadeva, the author of Vedanta Sutra. A student is to be considered perfected when he understands the identity of the Holy Name and the Supreme Lord. Unless one is under the shelter of a realized spiritual master, his understanding of the Supreme is simply foolishness. However, one can fully understand the Transcendental Lord by service and devotion. When Lord Chaitanya offenselessly chanted the Hare Krishna mantra, he declared that the mantra could at once deliver a conditioned soul from material contamination. In this age of Kali, there is no alternative to chanting this Maha Mantra. It is stated that the essence of all Vedic literature is the chanting of this holy name of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord Chaitanya also told Prakashananda Saraswati, "In order to convince me about this essential fact of Vedic knowledge, my spiritual master has taught me a verse from Brihan Naradiya Purana, chapter 38, verse 126. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Namaiva Kaivalam, Kalo Nastyeva, 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 Gatir Anyatha," which means, in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. There is no other way. There is no other way. There is no other way. In 3 out of the 4 millenniums, namely Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Dwapara Yuga, people had the honor to be able to understand transcendence through the path of disciplic succession. However, in the present age, people have no interest in the disciplic succession. Instead, they have invented many paths of logic and argument. This individual attempt to understand the supreme transcendence, called the ascending process, is not approved by the Vedas. The absolute truth must descend from the absolute platform. He is not to be understood by the ascending process. The holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is a transcendental vibration because it comes from the transcendental platform, the supreme abode of Krishna. Because there is no difference between Krishna and his name, the holy name of Krishna is as pure, perfect, and liberated as Krishna himself. Academic scholars have no entrance by means of logic and other argument into the understanding of the transcendental nature of the holy name of God. The single path in understanding the transcendental nature of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the chanting of these names with faith and adherence. Such chanting will release one from designated conditions arising from the gross and subtle bodies. In this age of logic, argument, and disagreement, the chanting of Hare Krishna is the only means for self-realization. Because this transcendental vibration alone can deliver the conditioned soul, it is considered to be the essence of the Vedanta Sutra. According to the material conception, there is duality between the name, form, quality, emotions, and activities of a person and the person himself. But as far as the transcendental vibration is concerned, there is no such limitation, for it descends from the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, there is no difference between the name of the person and the quality of the person. Of course, in the material world, there is a difference. Because the Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand this, they cannot utter the transcendental vibration. Lord Chaitanya then told Prakashananda Saraswati that because he received the order from his spiritual master, he was constantly chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. As a result of this chanting, the Lord said, I sometimes become very impatient and cannot restrain myself from dancing and laughing or crying and singing. Indeed, I become just like a madman. When I first wondered whether I had become mad by chanting this Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, I approached my spiritual master and informed him that I had gone mad by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thus I asked him what was my actual position. In the Narada Pancharatra, it is stated, Esho Veda Sad Angani Chandamsi Vivada Sura Sarvam Ashtak Sharantastam Yachchanyad Api Vanmayam Sarva Vedanta Saratha Samsara Navatarana, which means, quote, all Vedic rituals, mantras, and understanding are compressed into 8 words, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Similarly, in the Kalasantarana Upanishad, it is stated, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Iti Surashakam Nam Kali Kalmasha Nashanam Nata Parataropaya Sarva Vedishu Drishyate, which means, quote, the 16 words Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, are especially meant for counteracting the contaminations of Kali. To save oneself from the contamination of Kali, there is no alternative but the chanting of these 16 words, unquote. Lord Chaitanya informed Prakashananda Sarasvati that when his spiritual master understood him, he said, "It is the transcendental nature of the holy names of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, to transport a man into spiritual madness. Anyone who sincerely chants this holy name very soon attains elevation to the platform of love of God and becomes mad after God. This madness arising from love of God is the first perfectional stage for a human being." Generally, a human being is interested in religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. But love of God is above all these. A bona fide spiritual master chants the holy names Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And the transcendental sound vibration enters into the ear of the disciple. And if a disciple follows in the footsteps of his spiritual master and chants the holy name with similar respect, he actually comes to worship the transcendental name. When the transcendental name is worshipped by the devotee, the name himself spreads his glories within the heart of a devotee. When a devotee is perfectly qualified in chanting the transcendental vibration of the holy name, he is quite fit to become a spiritual master and to deliver all the people of the world. The chanting of the holy name is so powerful that it gradually establishes its supremacy above everything in the world. The devotee who chants it becomes transcendentally situated in ecstasy and sometimes laughs, cries, and dances in his ecstasy. Sometimes the unintelligent put hindrances in the path of chanting this Maha Mantra, but one who is situated on the platform of love of Godhead chants the holy name loudly for all concerned. As a result, everyone becomes initiated in the chanting of the holy names Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By chanting and hearing the holy names of Krishna, a person can remember the forms and qualities of Krishna.